Alright everybody, welcome back to our weekly live stream Shadowrun 5th Edition Adventures. We stream our sessions live on Twitch TV beginning at 9:30 p.m. Central Time every Sunday evening. Afterwards you can find it uploaded over to my YouTube page as well as a written write-up on my blog, both of which you can find links to on my profile. I am Eric Watson, your game master, and this is my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/gorebash722. You can also follow me on Twitter at RogueWatson. Joining me, as always, are a regular cast of Shadowrunners. Chris, playing Ursiv, the Troll Shaman. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us for being out of state in Chicago.
Yes. I'm in a hotel room.
In a hotel room on Wi-Fi, yeah, on the iPad. That is his dedication to the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, playing Mauta, the Human Street Samurai. Hello, hun.
Hello.
Raymond, playing Saren, the Human Decker. Hello, hun.
Hello, hun.
And Reese playing Falkirk the Elf 8X. Hello, Reestifer.
Hi.
For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For video sharing, we use Google Hangouts. And for broadcasting and streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software. Much of our music, including our intro and outro, is by Perturbator. Usually I do a previously on kind of 3-paragraph Star Wars-esque crawl. But this is actually going to be our epilogue and recap episode, which I just want to do basically 1 week after every mission we run. I want to do just a full recap episode where we basically just go over the whole mission, kind of break the fourth wall down a little bit, and just really analyze like how the mission ran from a actual like GM point of view, I guess, kind of like how I ran things, and then you guys can give feedback to me so that I know if things are working, what's not working, and that kind of thing, because I'm super new to this whole part of the role-playing deal, as well as a chance just to kind of go over some neat, like any kind of background things or kind of how I did, you know, certain adventures or mechanics or things of that nature. And also it would kind of serve as an epilogue in case we still had any kind of work that needed to be done at the end of another episode, in case that one had to go super long or something. Kind of like the OT, like half-hour block you'd have at the end of like a football program or something. Kind of just in case buffer, which I think we were able to wrap up pretty much everything last week, to where we even doled out rewards, karma, and money rewards and everything of that nature. So I think everybody's caught up in terms of actually ending that campaign, or that mission, which was called Road Rage. So we are going to jump right into our recap session, which you guys feel free to stop me at any point to go over the part that I'm talking about. So we opened, let's see, we got a call. It was several days since the last adventure, and you got a call from Jeremiah Red to start the adventure. So this is an actual traditional kind of way that a Shadowrun mission would start, where basically you get a call from your contact, and he or she gives you the mission, and you really don't have a choice to accept whether you want to go on an adventure or not, and you would run things from there. I just chose the Matrix because one weird thing is a lot of the adventures examples they give you in the books, they have the players meet at a location and then they get their information from this third-party contact that they don't know. And the weird thing is, in every one of these situations where I read about it, the players always like overanalyze and like go in expecting to be like ambushed or tricked or something, and they just spend all this build-up time, and all it amounts to is them just getting information from this person. And to me, that really kind of bores things. If I know nothing's going to happen, I don't want you guys to like overdo any of that. So I just said, okay, we're going to meet Red like in the Matrix in a private server. There's no danger whatsoever.
Oh, gotcha.
Let's just skip ahead to that part.
Right. Let's let everyone feel safe.
Yeah. So I didn't have any interest of like doing anything for the initial like.
I don't know though. With this group, would we have thought Jeremiah Red was going to ambush us at any point?
I think we would have tried to attack someone on the way there, right?
Probably some like random bystander.
Someone would have died.
I don't trust anything with Saren involved now. Every situation I have to write is like, what would Saren do in this situation?
That guy looks like a guard. We need to kill him. That's a
yeah, I'd better murder him just to be sure.
Wow.
So our first session, I basically just wrote a prologue, which was essentially just Jeremiah Red giving you guys the mission and the information, which was actually quite a bit of information. I have about 2 full pages almost of dialogue and information of just Red telling you about, and it was kind of a sequel to the first adventure, as he was telling you guys about, they have to gather the material from JT's automotive shop, and I kind of wanted to build up on the events that happened last time. And more importantly, actually use an entire scene that I had built in the last one, which helped a lot in crafting this adventure. And yeah, he told you about the money, he told you about the NPC allies you guys would have, so just a huge amount of info dump in this scene, which there wasn't really a more elegant way of me doing that, so that's what you got. It was at this point, interestingly enough, that I actually whispered to Mauta about her connection with the character of Ricardo Martin. So as soon as I had him mention the buyer, I actually whispered her privately that, like, oh, by the way, your character has this backstory with this character based on the backstory that you've given me. And then I let it up to her whether she wanted to actually tell you guys that information at all. So she's actually knew that information from the beginning of the mission.
So not right away.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And she was, I liked how she squirmed about having that information. That was fun. So after the prologue, you guys actually got a chance to kind of shop around a little bit and buy some equipment, I guess. I think Falkirk sold like a shotgun that he had earned from the last mission. Shadowrun is not a big loot-based game at all. It's kind of like just almost modern times. I mean, there is some sci-fi stuff, but in general, you can just buy the things you need. It's not like you find like a magic flaming sword that's really awesome or something. Like you can just buy like a sword that lights on fire, I guess, So
a little magic flaming sword.
It's a little different in terms of the selling the loot and thing. It's not as big of a deal as in other games. So there's
what you're saying is essentially anything that you could find, you could probably also just buy.
I think so. I think that's the idea. Yeah. When I get more comfortable with the system, I might try and inject some really cool, unique items in there for you guys to find and discover. But I need to start getting myself more familiar with, like, okay, what would that entail exactly besides, like, a weather scanner or something.
Right.
Like, can I do, like, some kind of cool armor-piercing bullets that would really make a difference, like that kind of thing. So I will look into that. So yeah, that prologue actually lasted a lot longer than I expected to. We had a lot of fun with it. It was, you guys were shopping around. We were doing the rolling. Excuse me. I'm still getting over my friggin' chest cold. I was watching the video from last week, and I'm just snorting the whole time and coughing. I'm just like, oh, that's terrible. You don't realize until you watch yourself do it, and it's, like, so distracting, the microphone. So I apologize so much for that, yeah. So yeah, I was a little worried because that prologue lasted a long time. We actually went up into our break with that prologue, and then we started the actual first scene, which had you guys going to back to JT's Automotive, where you guys would just basically pick up the shipment. Now, did you guys think at all that I would spring anything on you for doing this, or do you think it was just going to be a pick it up and let's go on the highway? Or at this point, it was just happening too quick.
I think every new scene has a combat.
I've slept since then.
Mm-hmm. Raymond, I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of how I feel when I'm building the scenes too.
Every scene has to have combat,
which might be a problem. I'll need to discuss that with you guys. But yeah, I almost think like okay, this scene, like, something has to happen. That's apparently, The problem in this adventure, which we can talk about that again, might be that I just made too many forced combat encounters also.
I feel like that was like the one combat encounter that we might have been able to get out of, but we didn't.
Yeah, that was interesting. This one actually had a lot of different ways it could have gone. So you guys arrived at this situation and immediately were basically thrust upon this crazy hostage situation between two different parties. Like, one team had this guy hostage, and then Lapis had another guy hostage. Excuse me. So you guys had to deal with that ramifications, and then you could either do it like socially, or basically do it stealthily, or just lift up the garage and go guns blazing.
What we did?
Which is kind of what ended up happening. Yeah, I think you guys tried talking at first, but yeah, the guns blazing method ended up being the case. Yeah, so immediately I was able to reuse the same whole scene. So I was thinking, man, this would be cool, and I'm going to put another cool combat encounter since you guys actually have the interesting foresight now of the area, but it's different because it's a different combat situation. I thought that was kind of an interesting twist on how to handle it. So instead of dealing with drones, there were actual, like, almost like a rival Shadowrun team.
And a mage.
Right. Yes, they had a mage.
Yeah.
Didn't really get to do anything.
She went splat.
Yeah, she went
Yeah.
down pretty quick.
quick.
Yeah, so because you guys went in the garage, you were able to actually get the jump on the mage pretty quick. And I kind of had separated the team at first, so because you guys went in guns blazing like immediately, like the team was kind of separated at first too, so you had the advantage of actually splitting them up at first as well, which worked out pretty good. I think by the time the last guy, who was actually way up in a, I think I had him either in the main, like back in the main lobby, or even upstairs in the, like, where all the crates were. So by the time the combat starts, he had to spend like most of his initiative passes just moving and running to get there. And then by the time he got there, you guys already taken down like everybody else.
They would splat.
Right.
Yeah, and then once again you take out the big bad guy, which
The big bad was the mechanical man?
No, it was actually the
mage?
No, it was the guy that popped out of the computer. The guy who was working on the computer was actually the leader of the group.
Oh, he was the boss. What did we do to him?
So
we
when
shot
you
him, didn't we?
Yeah. You stabilized him, but you definitely knocked him unconscious to where if you guys had wanted information, like more information on what they were doing there and that kind of thing, having to talk to him would have definitely. It was kind of like JT from the last mission. Like in order to get that final piece of information, you would have had to have talked to this guy.
Yeah.
Which means not knocking him unconscious.
Yeah, who did that?
I
think it was me.
That was actually Falkirk, I think, overloaded him with a particularly gruesome taser shot, as I recall. It, like, filled up his entire stun track and physical track. Mauta eliminated the mage with, like, one hit. So, interestingly, that whole first session ended up being super long, if you guys recall. It was like a 3-hour session because we were trying to get through that combat encounter, and I was afraid you guys weren't making enough progress. In hindsight, I definitely should have stopped it, like... I mean, because obviously throughout the adventure we ended up stopping it in the middle of combat sometimes, so we definitely didn't need to make it that long of a session. But we ended it right at the end of combat, which was kind of useful. So.
Okay.
I think that was when I was first getting sick too.
Yeah, that was a super long one. So that was session 1. So we made it through the prologue, and basically all of scene 1, which was arriving here, figuring out how to handle the situation. Which I don't know how much you guys were able to coordinate on here. It seems like you guys decided to go through the garage door pretty quick as the method.
I think, didn't I try to, like, talk through the door or something?
You did, yeah. You definitely engaged them at first. I forgot how things went down, but I don't think it was successful, obviously.
Right.
And Sharon was trying to shut down the computer from being hacked.
Yeah, I think you were able to do that. You were able to basically shut off the computer, just not be able to figure out like what exactly he was doing there. I know that you guys tried to go the front door and saw the bookshelf in the way, and then actually gave up on that. It would have been possible for you guys to move that bookshelf out of the way, and actually make it through that way. But I think
a strong shove.
Yeah, but I think I had the mechanical guy was like watching the side, so you would have come in, he would have gotten the drop on you, and that would have been more interesting. Start of the combat, because then the other guys wouldn't have been involved and they would have had to caught up. So I really left it open on how you guys were going to approach it, was how I was going to have to react to it. Violently, yeah. So yeah, that was scene 1. You got some information out of these guys, not all of it. And then you
we determined that they were just a rival gang hired by somebody else to steal the stuff, right? That's
I think so, yeah. Yeah, and then you guys actually left 2 of them basically chained or handcuffed, I think it was like handcuffed to various things. And then you guys left the scene with the acknowledgement that the Red Scar guy, Jeremiah Red's people, were going to come and like pick them up, basically. And
which, in hindsight, why did we not wait for them? I can't remember what was going on, but
I think I had the NPCs
like
trying to hurry you along and say like, "Hey, this guy's on a clock. Like, we need to go."
So they were supposed to get away.
Um,
When I heard they got away, I was like, that seems like oversight on our part.
yeah, you guys let it happen. So I was like, "Hey, this could be interesting." Scene 2, then. So we didn't even get. It was called Road Rage. We actually didn't even get on the highway until the second session, where we began our chase sequence. So ever since looking at Shadowrun, I really wanted to get into vehicle scenarios because that's something that you just do not do in Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot of typical fantasy stuff. You don't have cool action sequences on a highway, for example.
Right.
So I really had to go through and made sure I understood a lot of the chase combat rules, and even then I modified them to basically make them hopefully more fun and make a little bit more sense, although I do realize that was a lot of information just dump on you guys at once on top of everything. But I did create, as best I could, a rudimentary tactical map based on a highway, which is not the prettiest thing, but hopefully got the job done.
This was my favorite bit of the mission or whatever. I really enjoyed the highway sequence. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And this was definitely a very typical just random encounter. Was just this gang shows up and you guys have to protect your shipment. But this was actually, when I thought of the mission, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a follow-up mission of just let it do an escort mission, just because I really want to do chase combat. This was kind of the first seed of the entire mission, was this scene of you guys on the highway protecting this shipment, and the gangers are coming by and you're having to do all this cool action movie stuff to defend against it. Which you guys did pretty well. You guys there was a lot of firing of stuff back and forth. Combat actually lasted quite a while because of the way the vehicle armor can actually add to the player armor. So even though you guys were hitting guys, they were everybody was absorbing quite a lot of damage. So it took a while, even just these couple of guys. Which is kind of cool because I feel like Shadowrun combat can be very quick and deadly, so people often just get killed straight up. And this time you actually got to see people take some hits and keep doing some stuff. I definitely didn't plan on having the truck go down here. I had some rudimentary backup plans for that to happen, which would have been some miraculous things happening to the trolls to make that not happen, essentially. Or Crank get some super edge rolls.
Yeah, right.
But it turned out to work pretty well. They got their one crazy maneuver off where the guy jumped on and planted explosive, so that created a dire situation and kind of ratcheted things up nicely. You guys were still taking them down far enough. My original plan was to actually create a diverging path here. And I was going to be okay, if they need to escape, I'm going to have them go to the tunnels, and I'm going to create this whole part. And if they don't need to escape, they defeat the trolls, and they can just continue on the highway, and maybe they'll do this other thing. And then as I'm making this adventure, and I start doing the tunnels, I'm like, holy crap, I'm putting so much time into this. If they don't go to the tunnels, I'll be crushed now. And then I've got nothing planned for the highway, so fuck it, I'm just going to force them into the tunnels.
Yeah, it felt that way of, we defeated the trolls. All right. Oh, there are more trolls.
Yeah.
I assume there'll be more trolls after that. All right.
Exactly, yeah. So, and that's something else we can talk about. I worry I railroad it too much with just going from scene to scene. But, yeah, I really had, and I didn't necessarily plan it until I was looking at the options and that kind of, just to give it a slight, because otherwise I was well, I don't know what else to do for the highway. We've done our chase scene now. What else is there? You guys just continue on to the docks. Which I could have done. Nothing has to be multiple scenes necessarily. Is Chris frozen for anybody else? He might be gone.
Oh yeah, that's a good face to be frozen on though.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Someone take a screenshot of that.
Mm-hmm. That's unfortunate. Maybe he'll drop in again. Presented Chris Renner to everyone. So yeah, that was kind of my initial plan was, no matter what happens with the trolls, the situation would turn dire and you guys would need to escape. The only difference would have been the written dialogue. Would you guys have been actively being pursued, you had to escape, or was it a matter of, well, we're out of here, but I literally had written there was going to be a traffic jam up ahead, a gridlock, to where you guys couldn't come, and then you would then see the trolls coming from far away, like more of them, to be like, oh shit, we need to get off the highway and go somewhere else. So,
when that was happening, I was wondering, which is what I'm always wondering, is how much pushback can I give the DM here?
Mm-hmm.
like how much can I do when he does not want us to do?
Yeah.
And still get away with it. Because I was like, no, let's just keep fighting trolls. But then, like, you said a couple things where I was like, okay, he clearly wants us to get off the highway.
You know, and it's a shame that's kind of the bad part about Roll20, is like normally that's a strength of role-playing games, is we can all just improv with each other and I can just kind of roll with it. Not necessarily my strength now because I'm still working on trying to come up with things on the fly, but with Roll20 I can only build so many things in advance. And on this level, especially because you guys are moving through various areas, I really feel like I have to go like scene, and I know that really probably gives off a bad like railroading aspect, that you guys aren't really in charge of it. You guys are just kind of along for the ride, which is not necessarily, you know, why we're playing role-playing games like this. It's more like the freedom. So yeah, I do realize this one was more of a linear experience, I guess. But hopefully within the scenes, you guys at least got a lot of freedom about how you guys were handling things. Especially that first one at JT's and the last one at the docks. Were hopefully big enough areas with like multiple routes and options.
Yeah.
Hopefully that was
kind of I don't know how you get a balance there really, because
I mean,
if we say we're not going to deliver this truck, we're going to drive it downtown and store it in a storage shed.
Right.
I mean, what do you, like, as a DM, what do you do? You know what I mean? It's, I guess you could just, you know.
I mean, technically I can just lay down the law on anything and be like,
person drops dead.
Your truck runs out of power or something. Like, you're going to, you know, I can, you know. I can do whatever I need to make you guys. I can force you guys along a route if I need to.
Right.
See, and I always just assumed it would be one of those that it would be like the streamlined into the scenes that you wanted us in, but once we were in that scene, we had freedom to do whatever we wanted.
And that's kind of how
the way it's playing out now.
That's kind of how the way it's been playing out. Yeah.
Yeah, and see, to me, that was just natural. I was like, okay, that's just what it is. Yeah. It's fine because
it's just my natural instinct to be like, and then we set the truck on fire.
Right. Yeah. I mean, technically, there really are no limits when it comes to role playing. It's like I just give you guys the scenario, and you guys can do whatever you want. That's
Aaron 2.0 set the truck on fire.
Part of that is something I hope we can work our way up to, both in terms of Roll20 and like just the dynamics of the group. Is like eventually get to that point where it's like, okay, here's your mission. How do you want to go about it? Like, I can hopefully create like, and it might be like I just create like this like research lab, and it's like here's the lab, and you guys have it's just this giant map. And it's like, all right, you guys have the total freedom of how you want to do this, and that's technically one scene. You guys can't say, well, we're just gonna turn around from the lab and go like drink at a bar or something. Like that's the thing that we can't really, you know, like I can do like a few stock pictures and go to them, which is what it's gonna be. But you know, again, at some point, it's like the old rule, like, you know, do you accept this mission? Like, do you want to go on the adventure? Like, there are some concessions. Like, it's not total freedom here, but I try to give you guys as much freedom as I can within those restrictions, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So session 2 was basically a lot of it was actually talking to those guys at the end of scene 1, the runner group, and then scene 2, we got to the highway, and we actually stopped, I think, at the beginning of combat when the trolls showed up. So actually, session 3 was all of the highway combat.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, I didn't know it took that long.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was. I was worried at first. I was like, man, this is going slow. Like in terms of our progress we're making through the scenes. And then at that point, I'd realized, man, I actually built a much longer adventure than the first one. Even with you guys skipping an entire combat encounter in the first one, like this one just felt a lot longer. Yeah, so the third session was the actual highway combat, as well as beginning the tunnel excursion, which again, this started off as just one possible path through the adventure, and then once I made it, I was like, fuck it, like this is going too cool. Yeah. And again, this is kind of like the highway encounter, where it's like, you know, this is another combat encounter, but, and essentially all this scene is but it's also a lot different. Like, you guys really haven't fought like feral monster type things before, and also been in a more almost horror scene where it's all dark, visibility's bad, and there's dudes popping out everywhere. Like, I really wanted to kind of create that atmosphere to an extent. That's obviously not my genre forte, but create some kind of like dire combat situation. And then I just fucking sucked at rolling combat. Like, holy shit. You know,
now, was it just you sucking, or are those ghouls really bad too?
Well,
I stole your mojo.
the ghouls are about the ghouls have no armor basically. So if you hit them, they basically take all that damage. So they are kind of paper thin that way. But their dodge stat is still pretty good. Like, you shouldn't be hitting them every time, which you guys pretty much were. And when they attack, they've got a really strong attack. Like, they should be able to do a lot of damage. They're actually kind of glass cannony that way. Boy, I was getting more ties on rolls like crazy that evening. Like, the dice were totally
I don't
against
know how
me.
much damage they actually did at all. Yeah.
I think they got 2 hits in.
I think so. They did knock you unconscious during that fight. You had cast a spell and took a lot of stun damage.
Right.
I think one of them finally got through and actually finished off that stun damage.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I think one of them might have either attacked Lapis, or was it Falkirk or Saren or somebody?
No, I didn't get hit.
Okay. Yeah, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ghouls on this map.
That was kind of fun not knowing how many there were, because at first it was just like 3. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
There's ghouls surrounding us. And then like just more and more started showing up.
This is also the map that I had to be really careful with the Fog of War, which sounded like you guys were actually quite frustrated with, at least in the beginning, based on what you could see. As I was trying to give that like aspect of like, okay, there's only one light here, and then there's kind of a light where you guys can walk around and see. And it's tricky to do that in real time, because all I can do is just kind of basically highlight areas, and like draw areas to try to open it up. And then it gets even trickier to try and black those areas back out again. So
I think I got used to it.
I'm guessing in these areas there weren't any like side tunnels where you go explore down.
No.
Right.
Since the white boundaries.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this would have been interesting. I actually ad-libbed the tunnel where they came out of, where you guys were. I plan on having them come out of the sides, but I didn't have any of that written down. Like, there's a 2-meter tunnel here, and there's a whatever here. That was all just going to be made up on the fly, depending on what you guys went and did. And sure enough, you and Saren went down and explored one. So I was like, all right, this is going to be an actual like tunnel shaft that goes down. There'll be ghouls down here, and I'll have them attack these guys over here. My original plan was to have that single ghoul come out. I don't know whatever zombie movie does that, where just like the first guy at first, all of them, I guess, and then like the horde, and the idea was he was going to come out, you were going to get the description of the ghoul, and you could take him down fast, but then you would see like several guys would come out. That kind of happened, but at the same time, Saren and Falkirk were exploring that southwest corner, so I had to have them get attacked right at the same moment.
That was also kind of cinematic in a different way, where two separate groups both encounter the creature at the same time.
Yeah. And that was interesting, because I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna make them get jumps, they're gonna be right in melee range, they're gonna get some real hits in. Not at all. Like, just dodging left and right and just got murdered. It was terrible. I did plan on having Crank be useless for this fight. He's not like a good fighter anyway, but I plan on him having like almost having that zombie moment where he's gonna like run in the truck, and I was gonna have like the zombie like trying to claw at him.
He's also not a good driver.
And that was another reason this one was a little easier, because you guys did have Lapis, and she was actually amazing. I think she took out like 2 ghouls
from
her
really
spot.
Good, yeah.
So all my good rolls went to her, which was annoying. So yeah, this scene ended up not being nearly as dire and
difficult,
and horrific as I was planning on it. But again, balance is one of the hardest things to do, because it's not like I can test run this thing. And I've never really played Shadowrun before up till these sessions, so like it's tough to say like, well, how many ghouls can they take on? Like, it's one thing, and that's why I had the idea of having them come in spurts at first, in case the first couple were like starting to really tear through you guys. I would hold the rest back,
right?
And not have this
there
wave
were only
come.
6 ghouls,
just in case.
There would have definitely been an option for you guys to run, which none of you did this, is interestingly enough, to run back to the trucks and actually start up the vehicles and just try to plow through everybody.
I thought about it, but none of us have any sort of mechanical thing, and Crank was like working on the vehicle.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to stress that. So
if Crank wasn't the one,
and Crank would have been
I
like,
don't think any of us could have.
and I would have had Crank like in the truck panic, so you guys would have had to fight your way like back to him. So.
Right.
It wouldn't have been an easy thing to do, but it definitely would have been an option to attempt to like just run through those guys, and that would have been
Maybe
the thing.
Maybe if things had gotten dire,
yeah.
I might have tried it, but since they were, paper men, it wasn't.
Yeah, we did have our first person go down with Ursa getting unconscious at the end of that fight, like right at the end.
That's his own fault.
It's my own fault, and it's my own fault for not resting after the first fight, or even and I found an unfortunate side effect of having a lot of armor is that everything becomes stun damage. So that's actually not good because it doesn't spread it out at all.
It's interesting the way, you almost like, and that's gonna be stun damage. You're like, oh crap, because it's.
Yeah, I don't want stun damage.
For a spellcaster, that's particularly bad because all your spells have a chance of doing that to you.
We should have stripped it down.
Just taking the armor off, gone naked.
Take off all my armor.
Just cut me. That's better at this point. So the tunnels weren't actually that long of an excursion. Like the highway, it was basically just a combat scene, which. So what do you guys think about going from like basically one long combat scene to another in 2 back-to-back scenes?
Well, I like combat.
Yeah, I think they're both interesting enough because since we haven't done either one of them, that I was having a good time doing it.
And they were different enough. It wasn't like It wasn't like another Shadowrun gang and another Shadowrun gang in the tunnels. It was very different guys and different abilities that they had that we were fighting. So the variety made it. I enjoyed both of them.
Different situation set up too. We were in different places.
I think the worst times is when we have to make a decision of what to do.
Really?
Just like in the next scene when we actually get there is.
Right. Like what do we do?
The actual like planning part.
Yeah.
And agreeing. Yeah.
Because that first fight, the highway fight, was interesting because there's very there's no like movement or very little movement. You
can't talk to him.
You can't talk to him.
Yeah, it's just like reacting.
It's just, The zombie fight, there's plenty of movement. You can move around all you want, but once again, you can't talk to them, and they're just sort of a shambling force.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I think that's one of the more interesting parts, and especially leading up to this scene, which was my favorite part of the adventure, which was watching us fail? Watching us just flail about wildly? Which was session 4, which session 4 actually included that whole ghoul fight, which I was worried that was going to take up the entire session. That was taking a while. And then the last like 20 or 30 minutes, you guys got out of that fight and actually went to the docks. And that like 20-minute block was my favorite part of the adventure, which was you guys reached the dock entrance, and just melted. Like so much drama.
Eric, you're getting the DM sadism. You're developing it.
Well, it's not like you guys were failing or flailing too much. It was just, it's like, I was like, oh my god, I didn't write any of this or plan any of this to happen. This is like this is just being born out of the craziness that has happened. You guys are like panicking about how to get in. Mauta suddenly reveals her whole past, and meanwhile Saren just dives over the barbed wire fence at the same time. I was like, this is incredible. Like I didn't plan for any of this to happen, and it's amazing. So for me, because I know what's going to happen in terms of the story and that kind of thing, so what's fun for me is seeing how you guys react to things. So seeing you guys build up all these conversations you're having with each other is incredibly fun from my point of view.
Yeah. It's frustrating but also fun is that I have no idea what's going to end up being important and what's not. So the thing that I'm very much worried about and I'm like making plans for, which in this case was the security guard, was probably in hindsight not a big deal at all. He probably just would have let us in.
So getting into the docks, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
in hindsight, I don't think that was going to be much of a problem.
So I'll go ahead and explain to you how this would have gone down. The docks at the entrance, you guys were panicking about it, which was funny because I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal, but you guys were.
My guy does not have a sin at all. He is a homeless man. So.
You don't exist on this planet, basically.
Right.
So the idea would be that Crank would have just used his sin that he had registered to him, and he would have been allowed in, and the truck was registered. Lapis would have used her fake sin, and that would have been the kind of example session of her thing getting scanned. She had I think a 3 or 4 rating fake sin.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have seen her get swiped, and that would have gone through, which the way that works, which I think I mentioned how the fake sin thing went down because you guys were all terrified as shit.
Yeah.
it is the device rating times 2, and then that's how much I roll, and then I need to roll to beat the sin rating, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the higher the sin, the higher your sin, the harder it is for me to roll to beat it. I would have rolled, had you guys not jacked with anything at all, he would have rolled, it was a 2, so you would have rolled 4 dice. So those 4 dice would have tried to beat any of y'all's fake sin. So if you only had a fake sin of 1 or 2, that's probably about what he would have rolled, so it would have come to that.
Yeah.
If it had tied, he would have basically mashed the machine and been like, what's going on? And he would have swiped it again. And if it tied again, he would have been like, oh, fuck it, go in. Like, I was really not going to plan on lighting it up. Now, if somebody did fail legitimately, then we might have a problem, and that would lead to a social situation / bribe situation in order to get in. But, I'm really not in the process of like
as dick as we thought you were gonna be.
I'm really not in the process of like fucking you guys over. Like, I don't want to see you guys all die and fail. Like, that's not fun for anybody. I do want to try to challenge you guys as best I can, because I don't think it's fun to either just go through as a complete cakewalk either. So it's kind of, you want to try to find that balance as a GM, I think. So the plan was here. Obviously, I don't think anybody was gonna. And again, this wasn't like a military installation or something. This was literally just a docks that they're just, these guys are kind of just waving people, checking rudimentary papers. And, they had the guns there, but honestly, they were more for show than light. I wasn't planning on, like, lighting you guys up or anything. I did have stats written down because I thought a couple days beforehand, I was like, Staren's going to try to hack into those fucking guns.
Yeah.
Just in case he decides to murder the guards, I need to have stats for all these things.
I did look into figuring out how to take over the gun.
At one point, yeah, you were starting to hack into them. And I was trying to remind you, I was like, hey, if you hack and fail, like, it's going to light up their systems, and they're not going to like that.
Right, that's where I learned that I need to have a gunnery skill to be able to take over.
Oh, right.
Yeah, gunnery will actually fire all those things.
To operate them.
Mm-hmm.
So the dock... So I did have to make the tunnels and the highway myself, but those were fairly small, easy maps. The docks that I made is actually probably the biggest map, easily the biggest map I've made. And really, I didn't even know what I was thinking when I first did it. I was just like, all right, I know there's going to be an entrance, I know it's going to be guarded, and I know there's going to have to be enough room for anybody that wants to kind of stealth sneak their way inside, and then I'm going to have the actual exchange happen kind of in a far enough away corner to where it kind of, gives off the sense of being big. And that led to our final session, which was you guys officially getting inside by Ursiv using his control thoughts ability, basically using the Jedi mind trick of like, hey, let us in, which, perfect. I mean, that was a good use of that ability, and just kind of made that whole scenario, essentially negated all the fake sin stuff, and let you guys get right in, so...
which is now how Ursiv will always handle situations.
Which there may be complications there for in the future.
Eventually.
You start abusing that power, people are going to start...
Hey, we've never actually scanned this guy's ID. He's been in here
or you'll get... I mean, kind of notoriety is kind of like what karma is in like a Fallout game, where it's like, this is the reputation that like just follows your character around, and like people might hear of you of like, oh, hey, you like fuck with people's minds. You probably can't be trusted. I should wear a tinfoil helmet when I deal with you.
I did try my best not to let anyone know that I was doing it this time, though.
Yeah.
So technically, no one asked me how we got in, so.
Yeah. So Saren and Mauta actually did the kind of stealthy way in, which that's when Saren had the very funny method of being horrified that there was a random like dock worker in the corner on a cigarette break, and he was seriously thinking of just murdering this guy just because he didn't know how to get past him or something.
Yeah,
that might actually be a really fun plot twist. If we just randomly happen to have like a serial killer psycho on our team.
He just leaves bodies and hides them.
Yeah, we don't know it, but behind our backs, he's murdering civilians.
Yeah, that was funny for me. I was like, I literally just put this random dude here, kind of for that purpose, like in case somebody was sneaking around, there'd be somebody here and be like, oh shit, I gotta sneak past this guy. But instead, Saren's immediate reaction was like, oh shit, I gotta kill this guy. Like, huh.
I thought this was a hostile environment.
Kind of, but I mean, you were also expected here, so it's not like you're infiltrating, this research lab or something.
We are delivering goods after all.
You are delivering goods, and you were expected, basically. But you did have the advantage of, I let you guys basically go in however you wanted in terms of what kind of combination. So who you wanted to, like, hide, and who you wanted to put in what spots, and that kind of thing.
I think I missed that part of the plot.
So what were you guys expecting for this final deal going down?
I don't know. I was expecting some kind of combat because it's a big map.
I was expecting some kind of confrontation between Malta and the other guy, but that
like for that to come to a head, yeah.
There, so
yeah, I never did see Malta.
It worked too well.
Yeah, what would have happened?
You said you'd tell me what would have happened if I kept my mouth shut.
So.
Because I could have sworn you're going to try to force them together or something.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wasn't going to force it because no, I wasn't. I was going to leave that entirely as an option.
Now I'm just trying to think. What do we miss out on?
Yeah. So I don't think that's going to spoil anything in the future. I can go ahead and let you guys know. So if Ricardo had seen Mounts at all, he would have recognized her as being somebody that had worked with him, I guess for him. Kind of like the two knight errants that were like guarding him. That was kind of like what Malta had done at some point early on in her career before she went off and did actual like Black Ops stuff. So he would have recognized her, and then he would have seen that she had a bounty basically from Ares, and he would have it would have gotten a little tense. But Ricardo would have played it off and been like, look, I'm not a bounty hunter, I'm a businessman, so you give me the money on your bounty, and we'll call it squaresies. And then...
How much was the bounty?
I think I had it as 10,000?
Boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's as much as we made.
Which there could have been, there could have been some social roles there. And I also actually gave the option, I'm going to look at my notes now.
But doing that would do her no good because the bounty would still be on her head. It's not like giving him the money is going to like negate the bounty.
But I'm glad you said that.
This is him extorting her.
It would have been. And then he would have followed up, assuming he gotten paid, he would have said, hey, I know a guy who knows a guy in the company who can actually erase your bounty in the company, essentially erase your corporate sin for another, X amount of money, which could have been negotiated. So it actually would have ended up assuming you would have gone along with this plan and paid the money, you could have essentially had a way to pay off your negative karma corporate, what are they called, corporate sin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could have essentially paid that off. It would have been a substantial sum of money, but...
I think I'll keep my money.
Yes.
And that would have been interesting too if you had decided to not pay at all, and then, and he definitely wouldn't have. He probably would have dropped out of paying you guys the extra money then. So.
See, it was a good thing. I told you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I stayed hidden. And shot the boat.
So, and again, that was all optional. Like I wrote in my notes, like if he sees Mauta, then this is what's going to go down. So. Because I already had this elaborate combat situation planned, I didn't need to come up with another one, essentially, which was the sudden crazy magic attack that you guys experienced from essentially off camera.
Had to force a combat sequence.
Had to force the combat sequence. So, yeah, eventually I need to start making tactical maps without combat in them, because now you guys are expecting this. But again, that's almost how I feel like when I'm building levels too. I'm like, all right, what's the perilous situation here? What's the perilous situation there?
What I assumed when that happened was we had somehow gotten out of a combat situation and we needed to be forced in it or something.
Oh. Actually, no. That was the plan from the beginning, was to have this... the deal would have looked like it had gone off without a hitch, and then an outside party was going to attack. My initial plan was to have you guys just get attacked more conventionally as you were leaving the docks. And And then as I was writing the adventure together, I thought that's going to feel way too weird because you guys just kind of completed the adventure, and then all of a sudden this big final battle happens, you know, after the actual thing happened. It didn't flow really well. So I was like, all right, the moment really has to happen during the exchange. And then I had a good way to do it because we were at the dock, so I was like, fuck it, I can have this attack come from a boat in the harbor. It's going to be off in the distance. It's going to be up to you guys to try and realize that's coming, which I gave you a lot of hints about it because I was like, there's nothing on the map to indicate that. And, you know, part of the role-playing thing and the way Roll20 works is, you know, you have to rely on me to give you guys all the description anyway. And even when you're looking at stuff on Roll20, like there still might be even more stuff that you guys can ask me about, and I'll tell you, okay, well, yeah, there's this, this, and this.
That did hold me back a little bit because I was assuming that whoever was doing that was in the bottom right because that was the area we had not explored yet.
Okay.
It didn't even occur to me that they might be off map.
Yeah, and I thought about trying to leave that open, like you guys might have to like hunt around and try to find it, but honestly, and this is kind of the part of the time constraint is, you know, we're in the middle of combat, we're kind of getting toward the end of that session, I'm like, man, I kind of just want them to like wrap things up. So I kind of hinted at the fact that there were boats in the harbor, and then I think one of y'all used the perception to be able to spot the one or something. You know, I kind of loosey-gooseyed a lot on that kind of ending stuff to make it happen.
Faster.
Where in Mauta's shot at the end at the boat, I was basically at this point I was like, if she rolls anything other than like a 0 or a glitch, I'll basically have this be the catalyst to stop things. So I didn't even require that because of the way I actually set it up with the mana berry and all that. Like it wouldn't have taken any kind of. I wasn't going to roll defense for the person.
Did you ever intend for us to actually fight the other team to the death, or was it always just a how quick can you break the spell situation?
Yes, I had that be an option. It would have been awful because literally you guys would not have been paid had you killed Ricardo. And I thought that would make an interesting thing is like, oh shit, we can't kill this guy, but he's like trying to kill us.
And I think we all immediately realized that.
Yeah, I think so.
We're all like, don't kill Ricardo.
Yeah. And I almost had to force the issue about, back the truck up and make sure everybody's in the right spot because I was actually very much restrictive of myself. I was like, I know where the boat is, and I know where the person's line of sight is to cast the spell, so I know the spell can only affect this one area, the mind control spell.
Right.
Which was like right here, basically, because the boat was up here a ways. So like there was at one point where Falkirk starts talking. I'm like, Falkirk, come over here. I was like, I gotta get everybody in the right spots. Ursa and Chris kept saying he was in the truck. He was in the truck. I'm standing in the truck. I was like, damn it. Okay, fine. I can't have the spell affect you because you're in the truck. So
that's right.
Without even knowing that, you saved yourself from that situation, which worked out well because you were then able to save Falkirk, I believe, from the domination spell. That was something that I was bad about.
I'm helping the guy in the truck. Come on, I'll help you in the truck.
Yes, in the truck. Come on.
One thing you guys could have done, which it sounded like Falkirk might have tried to do towards the end, is actually break line of sight with the boat. So one thing you guys could have done is like grab people and tackle them like past a shipping container, or drag them somewhere, or take the truck and try to block the line of sight. This would have required you basically to know that it was coming from the boat, but not think to be able to shoot at the boat. Would have been to try to block that, because I did want to make sure I was following the rules of the game and not just having this magical like mouse spell up here. I was like, all right, the person has to have line of sight the whole time. So if you actually broke that line of sight at any point, that would actually dissipate the spell on that person.
Nope, I had no clue.
And then on top of that, I wanted to have this water spirit appear, just to make the cool, like, in case you guys were just murdering like all these like guards and stuff left and right, I wanted to have this cool like kind of boss creature, which was interesting because I actually had, I have it on the GM layer. I have like hidden tokens on the map basically, and he was literally like right here, and then Saren was like right here on his own. Raymond moved his person, and I was like, yes.
That was fairly cinematic too, because that's like one of those situations where like the big battle's going on.
Yes.
And one of the guys who should be in the big battle ends up being like sidelined by like a mini boss.
Yeah, if you guys go back and watch the video, you will see like I didn't actually have to cheat and move this person like when he appeared. Like he was like right there. Yeah, it was basically took Saren and Mauta out for a few combat turns as you guys were trying to deal with that. I know that I don't think he did any damage, but I think also Saren used like every point of edge during that final battle as well. Like I think you guys were all using edge left and right during that finale, which, boy, that really helps turn the tide. Like Chris, you're using edge to break the spell on Falkirk.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I think twice, and I think Saren used edge twice to avoid the water elemental's attack, as well, like the melee attack. So there was a lot of edge expenditure, which during the final battle probably should be, because at this point I kind of always let you guys refill your edge between missions. So
There was that time I remember I was shooting at it and I got 0 hits at all. And I thought about shooting my edge, my last point of edge.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that important to shoot him right now. It's good, because otherwise he would have engulfed me in the next turn.
Right.
So yeah, you guys could have ended up murdering them, but I kind of was, I guess, more easy on you guys in terms of like letting you know about the boat, and because I was worried at first, I was like, man, they have no clue what's going on, like how are they gonna handle this situation? Like even as I was doing it,
Right.
like I gotta give them clues about the boat things. I don't think that would occur to me if I was playing this game. So once I layered in that stuff, hopefully. And it seemed to go pretty quick after that, like, and really nobody. I think one person died. I think Lapis like stabbed this guy. I didn't even have stats for these guys. They were literally just there to die.
If anybody attacked him.
Yeah, but oddly enough, you guys actually didn't kill either of the Knight Errants, which would have resulted in Ricardo like not paying a lot of more base money. I think that would have been like I literally had that as a mechanical like hit. Like if you guys had killed any of his personnel, that would have been because he would have been like, well, I'm gonna have to like cover the, deal with this essentially, and that's going to cost this much money. He's a businessman. And funnily enough, you guys did a lot of damage to these guys, but neither of them actually died. So, and Ricardo, I don't think actually even got hit, which was amazing as well. So he was pleased about it. It seemed to go pretty well, and he gave you guys the full brunt of the money, which was a shit ton of money. Ended up being because Falkirk used Reese used his point of edge on the probably the single most important role of the mission, which was a negotiation.
The payout.
Yeah, the payout.
I know when to use it.
That's a bank error in my favor because I didn't realize you'd be getting that many hits. I'm like, oh shit, you can edge that roll, and suddenly my 2,000 per net hit is way too generous. And yeah, that was pretty much the end. I didn't have much of an epilogue after that. You guys could just leave. Crank and Lapis kind of go their own ways, and then you guys, I think, touched base with Red, and kind of told him a little bit what had happened. So yeah, what'd you think about the ending? I guess the ending first, and then the overall adventure after that.
That ending fight was terrifying. Because I didn't know how bad you were willing to let it go. But because it seemed like things could get really bad there.
Yeah, having everything depend on my willpower roll was awful. That's the worst. The worst part of my character is willpower.
I almost tried to swim to the boat.
Yes, you did.
That was hilarious. We had people in the Twitch chat that were like, he wants to jump in the water after a boat with a water elemental right next to him. I was like, yep, that's true.
I was desperate. There was nothing else to do.
I certainly can't attack him, and there really wasn't anything to hack into at that point, as I really, the end of the first adventure was all technical drones and hacking into stuff, although I don't know if you actually hacked into that much stuff during that battle. And this one, it was just all like magical shit going on. So kind of want to highlight different things.
If I could have gotten away from the water elemental, I was going to hack into the boat and make it drive away.
Yeah, that was definitely another option.
That would work.
Any way you could have basically fucked with the boat, which ended up being Malta's shot. But anything that you did that was the boat would have felt under a duress or attack at all, that would have driven away, and that would have stopped the mind control spell. Now my plan was to have the water elemental stick around for a while, because the way summoning works, you can actually have them be a pretty far. It's almost like that hacking distance. Like it's a really far distance that they can operate in. But honestly, it felt it was kind of late in the session at that point. We were getting towards the end, time wise, and after the mob control fell off, you guys were all just kind of like almost with a we're done attitude. Even though I kind of pointed out, I was like, hey, that water melt is still up there. And I don't. It just didn't feel like anybody was.
None of us were concerned.
Yeah, nobody really wanted to like keep fighting or anything. So literally on his pass, I just had him like jump back into the water, into the sea, as if he was retreating. And it just kind of.
If you don't pay any attention to him, he'll leave.
It just felt oddly anticlimactic. When I wrote it, I thought, okay, I'll have this guy stick around. That'll be like the last boss fight. But as the battle was progressing, it was the mob thing was way the more thing, and the water elemental was just this weird like side thing happening to where you guys didn't even know about it. So it would have just felt weird to have like this other like, oh yeah, we all have to gang up on this creature at the end now.
Truthfully, it kind of seemed out of place with everything else. Like, it didn't fit with the whole mob mentality thing.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was, you guys were definitely being attacked by a mage, and that mage obviously cast the mob control spell and summoned the water elemental, and then the water elemental actually created the like the tempest around you. Yeah, so if you had managed to disable him, it would have stopped the storm as well.
He definitely felt like the lesser of the two threats. Like,
you know,
a bunch of us being mind controlled seems like a pretty big fucking deal.
It was weird, yeah. I mean, he's strong, and again, like Saren kept using his edge to avoid him.
Yeah.
But the same thing happened with I used another elemental during that first scene. The mage had an air elemental, and that also ended up being super underwhelming. So I don't know, like twice I tried to use them in the same adventure, and both times it came off flat. So I don't know if I just got unlucky with how I used them, or just the situation. They were never the focus.
Did we kill the first one, or did we just shoot the mage?
You killed the mage like right off the bat, which kills the.
Yeah.
Well, and this one I thought okay, that solves this problem because you guys won't be able to kill that mage at all, so that you'll have to deal with this elemental.
Right.
But.
You just didn't feel like it.
Their defense is so high that after we try to attack, we realize that there's no point. We need to find something else to do.
They're pretty strong. I mean, they're meant to be. Right. Pretty solid dude, so yeah.
So my next plan was to run away.
Yeah, which was a solid plan. Yeah, so I don't know how I could have done that, or maybe just it was too much to try to do that with the mob control spell. That just felt like it just felt like with the way the story was going and the session again when it was getting late at that point. As soon as the mob control spell ended, it just felt like the relief stopped and it was like, okay, now we're at the end, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna tack this guy on and make you guys fight him then at this point. So he slinks off to fight again. So yeah, that was the ending to the adventure. You guys got paid. Got some more mystery. So what did you guys think about the actual attacker? Did you think that had any connection, or was just completely random, or?
I feel like it's setting up for something bigger, maybe?
Yeah. You know what that felt like to me? That felt like near the beginning of Baldur's Gate 1, where like you're like 5 hours, 6 hours in, and the main boss shows up and just murders one of your teammates.
Murders the entire monastery.
He disappears or he leaves or whatever. And it's like, oh, I guess that guy is going to be a threat later on.
It seems like
He's pretty powerful now.
A greater evil that is there to get in our way that we'll eventually run into later. We just don't know who they are right now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much 100% what I was going for. Like, this is the villain showing up and, like, doing bad things, but without you guys necessarily being able to retaliate yet. Like, in a JRPG, this would be the unbeatable fight that you guys would be forced to die in. And in a Western RPG, this would be a cutscene of, like, yeah, the bad guy, like, brutally killing your family and your village and leaving everything in burning dust, and you swear revenge, so. But, unlike those, you guys still don't even know the identity, because the people that you might learn that from, you've all killed, basically. Or put into comas. So, the plot thickens.
That's not good.
Whoops.
It happens.
Maybe Ursa can like mind dive or something and read their thoughts.
I can control thoughts. I'm not telepathic.
I will say
Can't
that
read minds.
The way I'm going to do this campaign, not every mission is going to necessarily include the main villain or even be tied to the main plot in any way. This one very much was, because obviously it picked up events of the first one. You know, a JT shop and having to ship out those shipments, and then mostly it was a lot of random encounters, and then you kind of got a little bit of the wider world of Shadowrun, hopefully, and then dealing with a mega corporation kind of for the first time. as well as kind of running into the big bad villain, basically, or at least the effects that they can do. But yeah, not every mission will necessarily tie together. There will be like one-off episodes essentially that will hopefully more maybe use like y'all's backgrounds and like NPCs and friends and things, so, or just cool ideas that I have. So any thoughts? This has been going on for about an hour, which would be good timing in terms of just doing this recap episode. But any more thoughts and feedback you guys had on Road Rage, our second ever Shadowrun mission?
I really liked it. I thought it was a really neat mix of different combat scenarios and situations and whatnot. It definitely was combat heavy, but I enjoyed all the combat.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we could have gotten out of the first combat, but
Yeah.
just didn't. So
We just didn't. Yeah. We could have handled that differently.
Yeah, I would be fascinated to watch you guys pull off an actual stealth scenario. So far, I've tried to give you stealth options, but not necessarily like this is like the preferred method.
I don't know if any of us are really like stealth focused. Does anybody
I have
actually
a stealth skill,
yeah.
but I always
Okay.
fail to roll it. So.
That's right. That's right. You fell into that one building.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the last
Trip the
mission.
alarm. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: did you which adventure have you liked more now, the first one or the second one? Not with a Whimper or Road Rage.
I don't remember.
Which of my children do you like more?
I love
Well,
them both.
probably this one.
What was the first one again?
That's
the one
that's
where-
an excellent review
No.
right there. That's fantastic. It was so memorable.
I think, and again, this comes back to a little bit of what we talked about the first time whenever we finished the first adventure. Like, I have a really high stealth ability. Like, part of my armor adds, like, cat-like and stealth abilities. But I never know when I'm supposed to use that.
Oh, okay.
So it comes
You
more
know,
on my end of things.
And that's
versus-
part of it's probably something. Knowing that, it's probably something as a group we should work on, because my guy can do reconnaissance really well, but I haven't very much.
Well, it's
I've
hard to
never-
do. It's hard to do stealth when you're primarily outdoors. Like if you had a office building or something, there could be a lot of stealth. in there.
Right. So like
Well-
JT's would have been a better place for it.
Well, even JT's is just a tiny garage building. Like if you had like a big corporate office or
Oh,
something,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
you could stealth around.
someplace you could
Yeah.
actually like sneak into side rooms and stuff.
Yeah, an actual
Right. This
yeah.
one you can't stealth on this one because you're out in the open.
That is something
Yeah,
we haven't
you-
seen yet. Is a giant like multi-room building essentially.
Right.
Stealth. Yeah, we could. Yeah,
You
yeah.
will probably see one of those next adventure.
That's a good idea.
Guards patrolling, trying to sneak around,
Yeah.
or hack into something.
Definitely, and that's probably definitely what I want to do with these missions is kind of highlight different scenarios and be able to utilize different skill sets in each one, and also hopefully give you guys options for tackling different areas and paths. Like the docks was a little more straightforward, although you guys can kind of still decide how you want to split up. And even for the highway stuff, I let you guys completely decide how you wanted to split up in terms of like what vehicles and who was where.
Which was really fun, because I feel like we could have ended up with a very different scenario if we had all
yeah.
like piled in different places.
That's true, yeah. Unfortunately, that was the one that Raymond couldn't be there for, so he had to
So he drove
roll up on the bike at the end, yeah. I feel like the mounted machine gun on the truck, I don't think got any use, but
Right.
that might have been part of the reason. Cool. So, any more thoughts on Road Rage?
I'm definitely excited for the next one.
I don't know what it's gonna be, but I'm excited.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll do the closing out of this stream in terms of our recap episode, and then we can all stick around and talk about character advancement and try to get caught up on that to where, and again, there'll be, well, I guess we'll be next week we'll start, which shit, I got to start doing that one. I've gotten the synopsis of the adventure written, and that's about all I have to do, or all I have so far. So I've got a lot of work to do on that, but we can still do, there'll be a prologue for the new session, but I'd like to do it to where more like you guys are talking about, like, this is what, my character did in terms of here's my new skills, rather than, okay, I need to now look up my skills and decide how to do them. Like, I want to have that, all that hopefully taken care of before we actually jump into this session next week.
Right.
So everybody's fully prepared with their characters. They've kind of bought their stuff, and then if we need to, we can go through a buying session of things. But hopefully for the most part, you guys already have your karma spent and money spent, however you want it, and that kind of thing, going into the next mission. So, all right. Well,
once again, you're just not terribly interested in the mid or what do you call it? Between mission role playing aspect of it. Like,
I mean, if you guys are, let me know if that interests you. But
all it's going to amount to is like, I call this man and ask him if he has this gun.
Right, which we did a little bit of.
He does.
Yeah. And maybe we'll want to get into that more when we learn more about the world, because we're all kind of learning together, and get some more contacts and stuff. Maybe we want to have, those kind of in-between sessions, and maybe they'll be part of these like epilogue recap sessions where now we're calling people up and telling them things and just kind of having fun with it. I mean, at this point, if it's fun, then we can do it. To me, it's not super interesting to do that kind of thing. But it ended up actually taking quite a bit on the first session, and seemed pretty fun for people to like just kind of role play, like chopping around and just farting around, doing that kind of thing. So
yeah,
if that ends up being a fun thing, we can certainly go into that. In terms of me like writing it out for the adventure, I'm probably not going to write too much on it.
right, yeah.
There's not going to be any like going out on the town doing stuff necessarily, but maybe in the future we can work on that kind of thing. So. Closing thoughts on Road Rage, thumbs up generally.
Yeah.
Combat heavy, but enjoyed the combat variations. I certainly enjoyed the drama you guys had towards the end. Was hilariously awesome and amazing.
I'm glad I am glad and kind of surprised and kind of impressed that ended up working out as smoothly as it did. For
yes.
As much as it seemed to be falling apart outside those gates, once we were all inside the gate, everyone kind of figured out what they were going to do pretty quick.
Yeah.
And just did it. So everything kind of worked out all right. Because when we were going in, I thought that was going to be just a clusterfuck.
It was amazing from my point of view to watch that unfold.
One person was going to trip an alarm on one side, and one person was going to get in a fight with the guards on the other.
Yeah, and
it's going to be just amazing.
Those kind of clusterfuck moments, that could be an amazing thing to happen during a role-playing session. Like things can go down. You guys have to like escape via a stolen helicopter or something. Those could be absolutely incredible. Like, and hopefully again as we go along, we'll get more comfortable with some of these like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening kind of a scenario, and I won't have to railroad so much, but I think during the next session we will definitely have some fun with some very large scenes kind of like these docks. So thank you to Chris, Heather, Raymond, and Reese. I am Eric for our epilogue and recap episode of Road Rage. We'll be back next week with a new adventure. More Shadowrun 5th edition live streaming. Thank you guys.